So, our next concept to be critically analyzed, which is have an important place in the preamble, is socialist, and the very term socialist was not found in the original preamble that was enacted in 1949 and came into effect in 1950, but it was added under 42nd constitutional amendment in 1976. And what exactly and what the idea of socialist and how it originated, and regarding that we have to discuss about the evolutionary socialist and those evolutionary socialists such as the Fabians and the guild socialist and the syndicalist, as we found in United Kingdom, France, and in some other countries in Europe. And the very exponents of the theories associated with evolutionary socialist or evolutionary socialism were the English and French philosophers such as Robert Owen in England, also Harold Lasky in England, and Proudhon in France, who declared property as theft. Also, Charles Fourier, another French socialist philosopher, and also Sidney and Patrick Waves in England, they propounded the very theory of evolutionary socialism. And in India, the very idea of evolutionary socialism was brought into the Indian traditions by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and it was implemented by Mrs. Gandhi, as she included the very word socialist under 42nd constitutional amendment in 1976 when she was the Prime Minister of India. And that very idea of democratic socialism led to another group of Indian politicians and socialists who propounded the very theory of social democracy, and they were B.R. Ambedkar, J.P. Narayan, Ram Manohar Lohia, Kamraj, etc. And all these ideas of democratic socialism and social democracy led to a thinking among the politicians and all those eminent persons associated with Indian politics at the Avadi session of Congress in 1955 and later on in the Bhuneshwar session of Congress 1964, and which ultimately framed the very idea of socialistic pattern of society. And that socialistic pattern of society, as it was adopted, and before its adoption also the constitution provided certain mechanism as such for the very socialistic development, and such as the very institution of planning commission, and which was instituted in 1950, the National Development Council, as per the constitutional provisions also, the very Land Reforms Committee of the Planning Commission, to remove the inequalities among the distribution of land pattern in India. So also the Community Development Program, which was launched in 1952, and also the National Extension Service Program, which was launched in 1953, and all these led to Vinoba Bhave's Bhudan movement, and that particular movement is was eminent for the very purpose of donating land to a trust, and it would be distributed among the landless agricultural farmers or those who are completely landless in India. And all this also led to the very development of Panchayat Raj institution, and that Panchayat Raj institution, which was developed since 1956 under the chairmanship of Balwant Rai Mehta, who implement recommended for a three-tier panchayat system in India regarding its socialistic and economic development of India. And as per the very socialistic and economic items or the ideas we found under the directive principle of state policy under Part 4th of the Constitution, and which consists social, economic, and liberal principles which must be implemented by the Union of India or the state to bring social, economic, and political equality among the people. So, in relation to that, we could discuss specifically certain articles like Article 40, 41, 42, 43, 43A, 46, 47, and 48. But if we analyze the very directive principle of state policy from the very beginning of the provisions as per Article 38, it provides justice, social, economic, and political, and Article 39, it provides adequate livelihood, and Article 39A, it provided free legal aid, and that very provision was inserted under 42nd Constitutional Amendment of 1976, and also as per Article 14 for Panchayat Raj, and Article 41 that relates to right to work, education, and public assistance, and so also Article 42, which directs for conditions of work and maternity relief, and Article 43, which directs for workers' participation in management and decent standard of living for workers and for also cottage industries. So also Article 48 also provides for development of agriculture, animal husbandry, and environment. So all these articles relate to social, economic development, and which are very much the inherent part of the socialistic pattern of society as it was projected after the 1955 and 1964 sessions of Indian National Congress, and before that as it was an inherent part of the preamble which was declared by our apex court as the basic structure of the constitution. And besides that, the very socialistic pattern of society as adopted in India. So our economy is one of mixed economy where we found both the importance of public sector and private sector. And as regarding public sector, the Union of India framed almost the Steel Authority of India, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and also NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, Indian Oil, Oil India, Bharat Oil, etc. So many such public sector institutions or entrepreneurs are established by the Union of India, and besides that, the private sectors are also given freedom to carry on trade and business and commerce, such as we found the private sectors in India, those eminent industries like the Tatas, Birlas, Ambanis, Adanis, etc. And in another step, the Union of India, the central government, did bank nationalization first in 1969 by nationalizing 14 private sector banks, and in 1980 again it nationalized another six number of private banks for the very purpose of achieving a socialistic pattern of society, as it was aimed both in the preamble so also by our government, and as regard to achieve a real socialistic pattern of society and to bring equality and elimination of inequality, poverty, ignorance, etc. The central government and the Union Parliament in 1978 enacted the 44th Constitutional Amendment to the Constitution, by which it removed right to property as it was placed under Article 31 as a fundamental right. So also the very concept of freedom to carry out free trade, business, commerce, or any occupation as it is provided under Article 19. These two were removed under the 44th Constitutional Amendment in 1978, and instead now it is placed under Article 300A, and which is a legal right. So, now we'll discuss those important leading cases that we have chosen from the lot of cases, and that also regarding the very principle of socialistic ideas as it was held by our Supreme Court. And the first most important leading case that we would like to discuss in relation to the very concept of socialistic ideas, that is G.B. Pant University of Agriculture and Technology versus State of Uttar Pradesh in 2000. The Supreme Court expressed that democratic socialism aims to end poverty, ignorance, disease, and inequality of opportunity. This socialistic concept ought to be implemented in the true spirit of the Constitution as it was expressed by their Lordship in 2000 by the Supreme Court. And in another most important leading case relating to this very concept of socialistic pattern of society and to bring equality and to frame an egalitarian society in India, the important leading case is Nalini Sundar versus State of Chhattisgarh, and it was a case of 2011 decided by our apex court or Supreme Court, where it expressed that the policies that turn a blind eye to deliberate infliction of misery on large segment of population, even its weakest form and content, cannot be condoned in the view of the promise for social, economic, and political justice to citizens as made by the Constitution of India. So, we have finished the second most important ideal that we found place in our preamble, and that is the socialistic ideal that which was inserted in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976 by the then government headed by late Mrs. Indira Gandhi. So, in our upcoming video, would like to discuss the third most important ideal that is placed in the preamble of our constitution and which is considered as a part of basic structure of the constitution, and that is secular idea or secularism,